Welcome to Forest Lodge. We believe we are the world's first fully electric farm. We are a 6-hectare cherry orchard with a total of 9,300 trees, 5 different varieties of cherries. The thing about growing cherries in the Southern Hemisphere is we try to make sure that one of our varieties of cherries is always hitting Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is always changing every year. And so it's really important that we try and get one of those. One of these varieties might end up making us about 40% of our revenue in the year. So what we're going to do now, we're going to drive out to row 30. We're going to go see one of our electric frost fighting fans. That's probably the most challenging of all the electrical equipment that we had on farm. So we can talk through how we go about doing that. The big thing is that cherries are very, very susceptible to frost. So we have to have the right machines to fight the frost to make sure we have a crop, to make sure we make money.
And it's really cold here. And the entire farm is based on electricity.
100% electric.
No fossil fuels.
No fossil fuels whatsoever.
That's why your farm is so unique in the world.
That's it.
Let's go.
Yep, cool. Let's go. So Max, this is the first electric machine that you're going to be experiencing today. This is a golf cart imported directly from China.
This is from China?
This is from China. It cost us $13,000, and because we farm mainly on flat lands, electric golf carts are the absolute best solution for getting around the farm. These golf carts are probably the most used machines in the orchard. Our staff take them out every day. The most important thing about them is they're cheap, right? They were 13,000 New Zealand dollars for a brand new one. Lithium ion batteries, they last, you know, this one now is 3 years old and still going really, really well. You don't have to turn it off and on, you don't have to idle it, there's no noise. It's just a really nice thing that our staff really enjoy.
And you charge them like very often?
Just charge them every night when you come in. But you'll notice up here we have a fully netted canopy system for our orchard. The main reason behind that is 2 things. One, we try to keep the birds out because birds just love cherries. And you can see actually we've got one in here at the moment. So we try to make sure we keep as many of the birds out. We'll chase him out at some point when it comes time to chase the birds out for the season. The other one is to protect against hail. So one every 3 years or something we will get a hailstorm. If you have hail hitting fruit, it bruises fruit, it causes it to become worthless. So those are the 2 big things that we're focusing on.
And you have a specific configuration, like it's a 2D trellis?
Yeah, so I'll show you more about that in a moment, but the main thing around this is we're trying to, New Zealand is a high wage economy just like Europe that grows global commodity products. And as a result, because we're a high wage economy, it's harder for us to grow for global commodity prices at a profit. And so one of the things that we do with this 2D system is it's about being as efficient as we possibly can be. And so that means when the staff come in, they don't need to use ladders. They can pick all the fruit from the ground. They can pick the fruit really easily. We try to create this basically 2D hedge of cherries that's really, really easy for them to pick, so we can make our labor far more productive.
Okay. Less pruning, I guess?
Yep, it's a way less pruning. The pruning is much easier to tell someone exactly, train someone on what they need to be doing. But also the great thing about these 2D systems is they actually have about a 15% extra light inception, right? Sunlight is energy. Getting sunlight on those trees is super important for producing fruit. So the whole goal of this orchard is to get the most quality amount of cherries and the highest amount of revenue off the inputs that we have available to use. So it's not just electricity, it's also our labor, it's also our water. We try to make sure that everything is as efficient as it possibly can be, because if you're not farming efficiently, you're not making money.
Exactly, and it's even more true in New Zealand and Australia.
That's it. That's it.
No
because
grants
not only for us do we have to grow really efficiently, but then we have to ship our produce all over the world. The farmer has to pay that shipping cost. So therefore, we have to be, if we're going to compete with even European farmers, we have to make sure we're efficient.
So the harvesting season is definitely over here?
Oh, the harvest season is definitely over. We're very much in autumn now. We harvest from around about the middle of December through to around about the end of January. So we have about a 6-week harvest period for our 5 different varieties. And then once that's over, the cherry farmers get to go on holiday for a bit. We're down to maintenance now, so it's all about pruning and setting the trees up for next season. So this is one of our cherry trees here. This is a variety called Kootenai, which is very dark red cherry. So what you can see with this growing system is when we plant them on a 45-degree angle. We bend the trees over and we tie them down onto this bottom trellis wire. And then what we try to do, this system is called UFO, which stands for upright fruiting offshoots. And the idea is that all of our fruit should grow on vertical uprights. And so what we try to do is make sure that we're training all the branches that come off this tree to be roughly 1 hand width apart. And by being a hand width apart, it allows all of these different, these buds essentially to get a direct level of sunlight. We try to grow the trees no higher than the rows are wide so that this tree doesn't shade that tree. Right, so it's all about as much light inception as we can possibly get. As you can see here, if you come in close, these are the fruit buds. This is actually next year's fruit ready to go. So we're going through autumn at the moment, as you can see. We're going to go into winter. When it's winter, there'll be no leaves left on the trees at all. And in springtime, these buds here, they'll start to expand and swell up. And when they start to swell up, that's the time that they can become quite vulnerable to frost. These buds here will turn into blossom. The little egg-shaped buds here, they will produce about anywhere between 4 to 6 cherries each. So on a tree, we're looking at somewhere between 10, 15 kilos of cherries per tree. But for us, one of our big goals is to sell cherries in New Zealand to New Zealanders. You know, all of our really high quality export cherries at the moment go overseas because New Zealanders buy cherries for Christmas. The best cherries in New Zealand, which I think are the best cherries in the world, are harvested after Christmas. So it's about trying to change New Zealand's habits so that they can buy more and more of our fruit. If they buy more and more of our fruit, then we can start to look at, you know, getting a higher amount of fruit out of the orchard rather than making sure we're growing 34mm cherries for the export market. So it's all this game of, at the end of the day, I'm a farmer. I want to make as much money out of my farm as possible. So how do we innovate and how do we change and how do we be more efficient to make sure that we can push up the revenue that we make. One of the things that we also try to do here, I'm a computer programmer by trade, come from the technology industry where every decision that you make is driven by data. When we came to farming in New Zealand, and particularly horticulture, there wasn't a lot of data available on what's happening on a per tree basis out in the orchard. So what we've actually gone and done is put QR codes on every single tree here. And by putting QR codes on every single tree, it allows us to scan those QR codes and put regular data updates in there. Long term, with the automated tractor and also machine learning, we're wanting to actually 3D model this entire orchard and have data coming directly to our phones telling us exactly what the amount of cherries there are on every single tree. And this came from, I guess, like sheep and beef farming in New Zealand, where every animal has an ear tag. You scan that ear tag, you know exactly what's going on, how productive that particular animal's been, what the health implications have been, all those kinds of things. And we want to do that on a per tree basis as well.
And what are the key data that interest you, like the top 3?
The top 3 things would be, has there been any disease on the tree? What was last year's production like on
Yields?
the tree? The yield, whether or not what the size of the cherries were at the yield point. So when we come to replacing our trees, we probably need to look at replacing about 5% of our trees every year, rather than replacing them row by row, which everyone does at the moment. What we're really trying to do is go, well, what are the 5% of the trees that are the worst performers? Let's replace those with new ones to try and again bring our yield up. So this is a fully electric frost fighting fan. So a lot of your farmers are going to know how frosts are formed, but for those that don't, a frost is formed by a cold layer of air being trapped by a warm layer of air above. And that warm layer of air above is called the inversion layer. And the goal of these fans is to pull the warm air from above down and mix it around with the cold layer of air that's affecting the orchard. With the goal of bringing the average temperature of the orchard up. So if you have a look over here, we have this thermometer or this temperature sensor here. And this is recording what the temperature is pretty much at 1.5 meters above the ground. Up the top there is another one sitting there at about 9 meters. And during a frost, you'll often see a degree difference of around about 2 to 3 degrees. So the idea behind these fans is to pull the warmer air down, mix it around the orchard, and that brings the average temperature of the orchard up. By turning on these fans, we can usually raise the orchard temperature by about 1 degree. What's happening here at the moment, as you can see, these are our fruit buds for next year. Right now they're really hardy because they're next year's fruit. I think they would die at about -20 degrees or something like that. By the time we actually get to spring, if you're falling below, say, -2 degrees, your fruit buds start dying. By the time it gets to blossom, if you fall below -0.5 degree, your blossom starts dying. And so really what we're trying to do here is make sure that we never fall below the critical temperature. Program in what the temperatures are that we want it to come on at. But instead of a big diesel tank, instead of a big diesel motor down here, instead of coming home to your wife stinking of diesel, this is the 30 kilowatt frost fighting fan. It probably costs us about $9 an hour to run rather than $100 an hour to run with a diesel fan, right? And so all of the fans around New Zealand at the moment, except for these and a couple of other ones that have now been installed, are diesel fans. They'll burn anywhere between 30 to 40 litres of diesel an hour. New Zealand pays the highest price for fossil fuels in the world, and as a result, you're looking at hundreds of dollars an hour to run one of these fans. This is it in action. So we bought these fans from a company called AGI Frost Fans. These fans are now installed in Europe as well, but they are a proud South African company.
Okay.
Which is really strange, right? Because South Africa has one of the worst electricity grids in the world, and they're still making frost fighting fans because they've worked out they can make them cheaper. And they usually have these diesel backup generators. In New Zealand, we have such a stable electricity system. There's no need for the backup generator anymore. I just get some power cut insurance to make sure if there is ever a power cut, I'm insured against a potential loss. Everything is about efficiency. So everything that we're doing here around sustainability has to also result in a higher level of profit. And if we can achieve that outcome, and my goal is to become the most profitable orchard in New Zealand on a per hectare basis. And if I can prove that, then it's really a good example for other farmers to be able to start electrifying, because it's not just good for the planet, but it's also also super good for their businesses. So what we're doing at the moment is we're actually in the process of pruning our orchard, and we leave the weeds in the middle of the orchard long, because what we do is we come through with the tractor and we actually mulch all the branches. And what you want to do is have the branches lifted off the ground so the mulcher can actually pick them up.
Yeah,
and
it's not sticky on the ground.
Exactly right. And so that's why, the orchard looks a little bit unkept at the moment, but that's because we're doing row by row, we're doing our pruning and our mulching. So this orchard is a fully commercial orchard that last year produced 50 tons of cherries. This year we will be full production. We're hoping for somewhere between 80 to 100 tons of cherries. So we actually made some pretty good revenue this year, or pretty good profit this year, off 50 tons. If we have a really good year with no really adverse weather events, we're expecting 80 tons, which should mean this orchard really starts to become really profitable, which is the final part of the journey that we're on, is waiting for our trees to grow up to prove to everyone that electric orchards are by far more profitable. We save about $50,000 a year in energy costs. Saving about $50,000 in energy costs means that this orchard immediately has about a 16% increase in profit margins, because of course any cost you save is money in your farmer's pocket. So, and this orchard will probably make around about $300,000 in profit at full production, plus the $50,000 in energy savings. So that's sort of how you get to the 16%. So you can see there up on the shed, that is half of our solar array that we have. And over here on the house, we also have more solar panels. We've got about 45 kilowatts worth of solar. I really want to double the amount of solar that we have in the next year or so to bring it up to about 100 kilowatts of solar to run this farm. At the moment, half the electricity that we use, we generate ourselves. The other half of it comes from New Zealand's national grid. I really want to get that up to about maybe 75% of the electricity we use comes from our
That's a good excuse. That's a good excuse to have a new shed, right?
That's exactly right. You get it. Farmers love building sheds. It's going to go here. Yeah.
You can see the Monarch tractor that we're going to talk about
That's
later.
it. We'll back the Monarch tractor out. I'll film you driving it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So along with the power that we generate on our rooftops, we also store the power in these batteries here. These are BYD 48 volt batteries. We have 120 kilowatt hours worth of batteries, and we use that to not only store our surplus solar so we can use it later, but also if the power is really cheap on New Zealand's national grid, we can buy power and store it and use it later on. So these batteries really become a bit of a buffer or a hedge against the price of power in New Zealand, so that we're always trying to make sure we use the cheapest amount of power. I'm all about using electricity now as much as I possibly can, really increasing our energy use, which is really counterintuitive to what we'd be doing in the climate space. We talk about wanting to reduce energy use. But because we generated a lot of it ourselves, and because New Zealand's national grid is highly renewable, it's about 85% renewable, what I'm really focused on is how do I use as much cheap energy as possible in order to be able to increase the amount of profit that we can make on our farm. So clean energy, use as much of it as you can.
So when the energy is cheap, you store it, and when it's expensive, you sell it.
Exactly
basically.
right. So if you have a look over here, this is our dashboard where we are able to show other people, mainly farmers, about sort of how cost effective this is. In the last 12 months, with all of 21 machines that we have on farm, if they were all diesel machines, we would be using about $64,000 worth of diesel. By running them all electrically and by using our solar and battery systems as much as we can, we've got the total bill down to under $8,000, or the equivalent of $20 a day versus $176 a day in energy, which is about an 88% increase in efficiency.
And these numbers are considering all the investment?
No, so these numbers are considering all of the costs associated with the line charges, everything like that. However, this does not include the upfront capital cost.
Okay.
Now, to give you an understanding of the upfront capital cost, so we spent about 600,000 New Zealand dollars more building a fully electric orchard compared to if we'd done it with diesel. But you can sort of see here the savings on this is $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, right? Now, a lot of people will say, yes, but you have to take into account the cost of financing and everything like that. But in New Zealand, we have to also remember that this price continues to go up because we pay more for fossil fuels here because we're so far away from the rest of the world, and our government doesn't subsidise fossil fuels at all. So we're a litre of diesel in New Zealand is about $2.20 a litre. And so one of the things here is that this is 10 years. You go, oh, but we need to include the cost of capital. It's like, okay, well, if you NPV it might be 13 years. But we also then have to include the increased cost of diesel over the next 10 years. It works out on the machines. So all the machines running off New Zealand's national grid is sitting at about a 10-year payback period. The solar on the roof is sitting at about a 7-year payback period, and the batteries are sitting at about a 13-year payback period.
Okay.
That's the figures that we're looking at. So you can see the prices of technology for us as farmers and consumers is plummeting, while the price of energy delivered to us is going up. So it makes sense, I think, for every farmer in the world to be figuring out how to generate as much energy as they can themselves and using that energy in electric equipment. You can't create a litre of diesel yourself. You can create a kilowatt hour of electricity yourself.
Why did you choose Monarch tractor?
Why did I choose Monarch tractor? Because they're the only ones that were making electrical tractors at the time.
Okay.
And to be honest, I still haven't seen another commercial tractor available on the market that will suit our needs. So this is a 40 horsepower electric tractor, but the interesting thing is it can do anything an 80 horsepower diesel tractor can do.
Because of electricity.
Because of the torque, right? So this tractor is twice the price of a 40 horsepower diesel tractor,
Okay.
but cheaper than an 80 horsepower diesel tractor.
Okay, so they are right in the middle, more or less?
The thing about this that I find really interesting is if you're comparing capabilities, this is actually cheaper than the diesel option. But if you're looking at power ratings, it's not. So the whole thing, including shipping to get it over here to New Zealand, was 142,000 New Zealand dollars. We got about a $40,000 grant from the New Zealand government to get the first tractor to come over here. And what we had to do is we had to fly to San Francisco, meet with the Monarch board and executive team, and convince them that we were their first client outside of California. Yeah. And this tractor has had so many farmers from around New Zealand drive it.
And it's still the only one in New Zealand?
It's the only one in New Zealand. I believe there's now 2 tractors in Italy.
Okay.
And there's a number of tractors right throughout the US.
I think it's still a new machine, and even if the electric is different, they try to keep, we can see in the back that they try to keep a classic.
Exactly, so we've still got the classic system, so you can still run your implements on here. This is our mulcher that runs off the PTO, obviously. You've got your hydraulic arms, your hydraulic top link. Most importantly, all the hydraulics that you need are also available on here. But the one added thing in all of this is that you also now have power sockets off the back of the tractor. So that's a 15 amp plug, and that's a 32 amp plug. And we actually use those plugs to run electric implements, which are far more energy efficient than PTO or hydraulic implements. And so what I'll do is I'll take you over and show you the sprayer next that we've built ourselves, but we now have a sprayer that allows us to spray our entire orchard on a single battery charge. It uses about 15% of the energy of a traditional sprayer on the market that would run off the PTO. What we're going to do now is we're going to film Max learning how to drive this tractor. So pretty straightforward. This is the gear stick here, and if you press it forward, it goes forward. If you go back, it goes in reverse. Now,
Like a John Deere, basically.
yes, exactly. But there is one thing you need to do before it will let you move forward. What is that?
Asking you if I can drive it?
Oh, no, you can definitely drive it, but safety first.
Oh, the belt.
The belt, it won't let you do anything until you put your belt on. Right, flick it into forward, the orange lever there.
Oh.
Pull that up, push it forward, that's it. You don't need to worry about the brake. The brake is there for legal reasons, but it's electric, so you don't need to worry about it.
And the accelerator is on the right?
Give it a crack.
All right.
That's it. Now you know how to drive a fully electric tractor. Look at that. All he's got to do is turn the PTO on, and he'll be able to go mow my orchard for me.
So far, not that difficult.
Pretty easy, eh?
All right.
I think, Max, you should put it in forward, and you should go fast.
Fast?
Yeah, show.
Around?
Yeah, go fast.
What is impressive is how it brakes when we stop accelerating.
Exactly.
Maybe you might need some time to get used to, but yeah, it's quite impressive. I understand why you said that we don't need the brake.
You don't need the brake. The brake is there for legal reasons only.
Yeah.
So this is where you would charge the tractor. So that's like the normal CCS port. These are power outlets as well. So if you ever need to run a welder out in the orchard or a coffee machine or anything like that, you can run them off here or off the ones at the back here. This is the screen up here. So if you can see all the different views here. I'll get you to hold that actually because you'll be better than me.
Better if I can.
You've got all the different views on the camera. Sometimes the screen can be a little bit fiddly, but you can also see your PTO, so you can see what's going on. So you don't need to get a sore neck anymore. You can look at it.
You have basically a 360.
A 360 view. These views can be viewed online as well. So when the tractor's running without a driver, you can see exactly what it's doing, and you can watch what it's doing from the comfort of your office on your laptop. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like apart from that, it's just a regular tractor.
Do you have any other improvement?
So this thing here, this is the battery in here. That's over 100 kilowatt hours of battery storage, right? So that's larger than most EVs on the road, right? It's a really powerful. So how can I use this tractor when it's not moving to power the rest of my farm? So that stuff that I spoke to you before about the batteries that we have, adding this battery to that. So
you could use it like a storage or
Exactly. So then this battery has got lots of cheap power in it, ready to run one of my frost fighting fans when we need to.
So that's an improvement, using the battery, being able to, instead of only charging, also using this energy.
Correct. So, you know, our tractor's used for about 350, 400 hours in the year. That's an awful lot of hours that it's sitting there not doing anything that it could be contributing. You know, these batteries are an expensive part of the system, but if you can use them for other things, then they have better payback periods.
Okay.
You know, why holding 100 kilowatt hours of storage in here, waiting for the price of power to be really expensive,
Yeah.
and then pushing it back out.
Okay. I
The
start to
tractor
get
can make money by sitting still.
Okay.
Yeah, takes us about 4 hours, 5 hours to charge this battery from empty to full. But that's okay for us. We don't need. One other question we get asked all the time is how long does it run for?
Yeah.
The answer is for us about 8-10 hours. Depends on what you're doing. Are you mowing? Are you spraying? Are you?
That's the thing.
If you're just driving around for fun, it would last for days.
I think that's it for the tractor. Let's see it working. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel to get more.